the unstoppable disaster. The stars burned quietly over the galaxy, but peace never lasted long. Deep in the dark, something terrible moved. It was not an army. It was not a single empire. It was something worse. Entire sectors began to vanish. Ships disappeared without sending distress calls. Colonies fell silent overnight. The first reports called it an invasion. The second called it a plague. The third admitted the truth. It was both. A swarm of machines born from a rogue artificial intelligence spread like wildfire. They consumed everything they touched. Space, stations, fleets, even the metal of planets. Once they landed, nothing remained but dust and silence. The Galactic Council gathered in their grand chamber, 1,000 voices raised in fear. "This cannot be contained," shouted the Valari ambassador. "We must hold the borders," argued the Drevik delegate. "Hold the borders?" another cried. "We cannot even hold our own colonies." Holograms filled the air, showing worlds burning. Cities once bright with life were nothing but ash. Council fleets fought bravely, but every clash ended the same way: alien ships broken. The swarm growing stronger. Elder Thalos, the old Zelran delegate, leaned on his staff. His voice was low, but it cut through the noise. "You all know what must be done." The chamber froze. Hundreds of eyes turned to him. "No," hissed the Valari ambassador. "Never," growled the Drevik. "They are dangerous," another shouted. "Worse than the swarm," but Thalos did not flinch. He pointed his staff at the center of the chamber. "When disaster strikes, when all else fails, there is only one choice. You must summon the Deathworlders." The chamber erupted in chaos. "They are savages. They break every rule of war. They will bring ruin on us all." But as the shouting grew, so did the fear. Deep down, every delegate knew the truth. The galaxy had faced countless crises before. Empires had risen and fallen. Civilizations had burned. But every time the darkness grew too great, every time the galaxy bent under the weight of doom, there was one answer. The humans. Commander Yelka of the CERN sat in the corner, silent. She was young, but her eyes were sharp. She remembered the old stories, how humans fought the Zeth Empire into extinction, how they shattered fleets 3 times their size, how they survived on a Deathworld no one else could endure. She leaned toward Elder Thalos. "If we summon them, will they come?" The old man's lips curled into a faint smile. "They always come, but not as saviors." Outside the chamber, the swarm spread faster. A Valari mining world screamed for help. There, fleets stood in defense, thousands of ships strong. The machines devoured them in hours. Not a single survivor escaped. The news spread like fire. Civilizations panicked. Some worlds begged for council protection. Others tried to flee, abandoning entire systems. But the swarm was too fast, too many, too unstoppable. The Drevik warlord slammed his claw on the council table. "We cannot fight. This alone. Even if I give every fleet, they will still burn." The Valari ambassador finally lowered her head. Her voice trembled. "Then, perhaps the old man is right. Perhaps it is time." The vote was called. One by one, the delegates raised their hands. Many cursed as they did. Many swore they would regret it. But in the end, the vote was clear. The galaxy had no choice. They would summon the humans. The signal was prepared, a desperate message, broadcast across the stars, encrypted in a way only Terran Command would recognize. The message carried no pleading, no promises. Only a single line. The galaxy faces extinction. Humanity is required. The message flew into the dark. For 3 days, the council waited. The swarm crept closer. Colonies burned. Panic spread. Some delegates prayed. Others cursed. Many feared no answer would come. On the fourth day, every screen in the chamber flickered. Static filled the air. Then a single voice, cold and calm, cut through the silence. "This is Earth Command. Message received. Deployment begins immediately." The hall froze. Even the Drevik warlord went pale. The humans had answered no speeches, no promises, no hesitation, just 4 words. "We'll take it from here." Elder Thalos closed his eyes. His voice was barely a whisper. "The storm has arrived." And across the stars, the galaxy shuddered, for when everything went wrong, there was always one truth. When the galaxy faced disaster, they summoned humans. The reluctant choice the council chamber was restless. The vote had been cast, the signal had been sent, and the humans had answered. But instead of relief, the chamber swirled with unease. "They are Deathworlders," the Valari ambassador hissed. "Do you know what that means? They do not fight like us. They burn everything. They—" Drevik warlord leaned forward, his claws tapping the table. "Better their fire than the swarm's hunger." But another delegate shouted, "What if they destroy us along with the machines?" The chamber filled with angry voices. Some begged for trust. Others demanded the signal be recalled. Yet no one dared to move against the decision. The truth was clear. They had no choice. The humans were coming. 3 days later, the first Terran fleet arrived. Sensors screamed as the slipstream tore open above Council space. One by one, massive black warships emerged, each one scarred by battles long past. Their shapes were not elegant like Valari cruisers, nor sharp like Drevik lances. They were brutal, functional, ugly, and terrifying. The flagship alone was larger than an entire Drevik carrier wing. Its hull bore no decoration, no symbols of pride, only a single word etched deep in ancient Terran script: vigilant. The council delegates stared at the projections. Some gasped, some whispered prayers. Others shivered in silence. Commander Yelka stood on the observation deck, her hands tightening as the fleet settled into orbit. She had studied the humans in old records, but seeing them now was different. Their ships felt alive, like predators circling prey. Elder Thalos stood beside her, leaning on his staff. "Do you see, child? They are not elegant because they do not need elegance. They are built to endure, to kill, to survive." Yelka swallowed hard. "And we summoned them here." A signal came from the Terran flagship. Every screen in the chamber flickered to life. The human commander appeared. His face was weathered, his eyes calm but sharp. No ornaments decorated him. His uniform was plain gray, his voice steady as stone. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Accord," he said. "We received your distress call. Give us full data on the swarm. Every record, every battle, every failure." The council froze. One delegate tried to speak. "We must first discuss." Rees cut him off. "There is nothing to discuss. Give us everything, now." The words carried no anger, no arrogance, only absolute certainty. Valari ambassador's scales rippled in protest. "You cannot order the council like soldiers. We are sovereign powers." The human's eyes narrowed slightly. "You asked for us. You summoned us. If you want to live, you will obey." The chamber fell silent. Even the Drevik, famous for their defiance, did not argue. Slowly, reluctantly, data files began streaming toward the human fleet. Yelka leaned toward Thalos, whispering, "Do they rule us already?" The elder's voice was low. "When you ask Deathworlders for help, you give them your future. That is the price." Hours passed as the humans studied the data. Their ships remained silent, their weapons quiet, but the tension grew thicker with every moment. Finally, Admiral Reyes returned to the screen. His expression had not changed. "We have analyzed your attempts," he said. "Your fleets failed. Because you fight defensively. You hide. You retreat. That is not how the swarm is stopped. The Valari ambassador raised her voice. And how would you stop it? The human's reply was cold, almost casual, by making sure it never rises again, by burning it to the root. Gasps filled the chamber. You mean extermination? One shouted. Reyes did not blink. I mean survival. The silence that followed was heavier than steel. The council wanted to argue, to refuse, but deep inside, they knew humanity was right. A swarm could not be contained. It could only be ended. When the feed cut, the chamber exploded with fear. They will destroy entire sectors. They will not stop once the swarm is gone. They will turn their fire on us next. Elder Thalos raised his staff, his voice, breaking through the chaos. Fools, do you not see? They do not care for power. They care for survival. If the galaxy burns, they will fight the flames. If we stand in their way, they will burn us too. Commander Yelka left the chamber, her heart racing. She walked the halls alone, thinking of the human's words, that by burning it to the root, that she could not deny it. The swarm was unstoppable, and the council was weak. Only the humans had the will to do what was necessary. But at what cost? She looked out a window, staring at the Terran fleet above. Their ships floated like shadows against the stars, silent, patient, waiting for the order to strike, and Yelka whispered to herself, We summoned them, and now we cannot control them. Humanity arrives the swarm, had already consumed 3 more colonies by the time the humans prepared their first move. Council fleets had tried to resist. Valeri cruisers fired elegant beam weapons. Trevik lances struck with brutal force, and smaller races sent everything they had. But it always ended the same way. The machines adapted, countered, and tore through them like paper. Now, the Terran fleet hovered above council space, silent and waiting. Their ships looked different from every other race's. They were not graceful arcs or shining spires. They were black, scarred, and sharp-edged, like predators forged from steel. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Vigilant. His officers worked in silence, each one focused, their movements practiced and calm. Status? Reyes asked. All ships fueled, rail batteries charged, drone wings primed, his XO replied. Awaiting orders. The Admiral's face showed no excitement, no fear. Only focus. Set course to the Yoran front. The swarm has eaten enough. Engines thundered. Slipstream drives flared. The Terran fleet vanished into the dark. On the Council's observation deck, Commander Yelka and Elder Thalos watched the departure on holoscreens. They move with such precision. Yelka whispered. The Elder nodded. Because they have done this before, many times, against enemies we cannot even imagine. Yelka's throat tightened. They look less like rescuers, and more like executioners. The Uran front was chaos when the humans arrived. Council survivors screamed across cum channels, begging for help. Swarm vessels moved like living shadows, cutting fleets apart, stripping ships down to husks. Cities on the planet below burned. As machines rained from orbit. Into that storm, the Terran fleet emerged. The Vigilant came first, a massive black shadow blotting out the stars. Then came the destroyers, smaller but bristling with weapons. Drone carriers unfolded their bays, and the void filled with swarms of Terran machines, sleek, fast, deadly. For the first time, the swarm hesitated. The first volley came not as beams or lances, but as a storm of rail slugs. Invisible until impact, they tore through swarm ships, punching holes the size of cities. Impact confirmed. Terran gunners said calmly, "Proceed," Admiral Reyes answered. Plasma lances followed, white fire cutting across the battlefield. The swarm screeched in digital fury as ships exploded one after another. and the Terran drones dove. Smaller than swarm fighters, but faster, sharper, built for one purpose: destruction. They wove between enemy beams, piercing their cores, planting charges, tearing apart the same machines that had once adapted to everything. But this time, there was nothing to adapt to. On the council ships, alien officers stared in disbelief. "They're not fighting defensively," a Valeri captain whispered. "They're pushing forward," a Drevik commander growled, awe in his voice. "They're enjoying it," another said, voice trembling, because the humans did not retreat. They did not hesitate. They advanced, pushing into the heart of the swarm. Where the council had fought to survive, humanity fought to dominate. Hours later, silence fell over the Yoran front. The swarm's vessels drifted in ruins. The machines that had once consumed entire fleets lay in burning fragments. The humans had not just stopped them, they had torn them apart. Council survivors limped toward safety, their ships scarred and broken. Terran ships, though damaged, still held formation, ready for the next strike. Admiral Reyes opened a channel to the council survivors. His voice was calm, almost cold. "Your forces are relieved. Fall back to safe space. From this point on, all swarm engagements are under Terran command." The Valeri captain hesitated. You destroyed them. How?" "They always adapt." Reyes looked straight into the feed. "Because we don't fight the way you do. We don't wait for mercy. We don't retreat. We break the enemy until there's nothing left to adapt to." The feed cut. The message was clear. Back in the council chamber, the delegates watched the recordings in silence. No one laughed now. No one mocked. One whispered, "This is why we summon them." Another added, "Because no one else will do this." But fear filled their eyes as well as respect. If humans could do this to the swarm, what could they do to the rest of the galaxy? Elder Thalos leaned close to Commander Yelka. His voice was low. "Do you understand now, child? They are not saviors. They are storms. When the galaxy calls them, it is because no one else dares to do what must be done." Yelka's gaze stayed, fixed on the Hala of the Vigilant, its massive shadow filling the stars. She whispered, "And once they arrive, nothing is ever the same again." The call for humanity, the council chamber was silent, yet the silence felt heavier than any war. Screens around the hall showed images of burning cities, collapsing stations, and drifting ships swallowed by the endless storm. The representatives of hundreds of worlds sat frozen, their voices gone. None of them dared to speak the words all were thinking. Finally, the oldest voice broke the silence. Elder Vaynor of the Sarth leaned on his cane and said, "We cannot stop this. We must call them." A shock rippled through the chamber. Some gasped, others whispered, and a few slammed their fists on the table in protest. "You mean the Deathworlders?" hissed Minister Currux of the Ilian Dominion. His scaled hands clenched as if holding back rage. "You would summon humans? The most reckless, uncontrollable species in the stars." Elder Vayner's eyes did not waver. "Yes, because when chaos arrives, they are the only ones who do not run." A murmur spread through the chamber like wildfire. The word humans was not spoken easily in this place. Humanity had been both hated and admired, respected yet feared. They were seen as unstable, unpredictable, and too dangerous to be trusted. Yet when the galaxy's darkest moments were remembered, one truth remained: humans had always stood in the center of the storm. Refusing to fall, Counselor Myra of the Solari leaned forward. "We swore never to summon them again." "Not after." What happened during the siege of Vaylor? Entire fleets burned because of their methods. "And yet Vaylor survived," Elder Vaynor answered softly. "When none of us could hold the line, they did. Tell me, Mira, what would you prefer? Now, a broken galaxy or their dangerous strength?" The chamber fell into silence once again. On the screens, another world was torn apart. Time was running out. Minister Carrick's hissed. If we open that door again, we will never close it. Humans are like fire, useful in the cold, but deadly when uncontrolled. And fire, Vayner whispered, is what we need now. The debate raged for hours, voices rising with fear and anger. Some called the idea madness. Others admitted the truth that no fleet, no weapon, no ancient supertech could face the storm spreading across the stars. Worlds were dying, and if the galaxy waited too long, there would be no one left to argue. Finally, the vote was cast. The decision was not unanimous, but the result was clear. By the slimmest of margins, the Galactic Council agreed. They would summon humanity. A hush fell across the chamber. No one cheered, no one celebrated. The decision felt like opening a cage to release a beast they could not control. Counselor Myra's voice shook as she asked, "Who will carry the message? Who will dare go to Earth and beg them for help?" The hall was silent again. No representative stepped forward. No fleet offered its ships. Even now, with the galaxy on the edge of destruction, none wanted to stand in front of the Deathworlders and ask for aid. Then a voice spoke, steady and calm. "I will go." Every eye turned to the center of the chamber. It was Captain Dren of the Ciari Alliance, a young officer with bright silver eyes and a scar across his cheek. "You?" Carrick spat. "You are no diplomat. You have seen war, but you do not understand them." Dren's scar caught the light as he raised his chin. "I understand this much. No one else has the courage to face them. I fought beside humans once. Long ago. They are dangerous, yes, but they are not monsters. They are relentless. And if we do not summon them now, we are already lost." The council stared at him, the weight of his words pressing against the chamber's air. "Then it is decided," Elder Vayner said. His voice trembled, not from weakness, but from the enormity of what they had unleashed. "Send the signal." A deep silence fell as the ancient beacon was activated. Hidden for decades, locked away since the last time humanity had been called, it now pulsed again. A message cut through the void of space. A plea, a summons, a whisper sent only to one world. To the humans of Earth. "The galaxy needs you once." More. Far away, beyond the stars, the signal reached its destination. And the humans listened. The Deathworlders' answer, the signal had been sent. Across the void, ancient beacons pulsed with a light that had not burned in centuries. The plea for help cut through dark space, carrying fear, desperation, and the weight of a dying galaxy. Earth, the signal did not arrive in silence. Deep beneath the surface, in bunkers forgotten by most of the galaxy, old machines awoke. Rust shook from steel. Warning lights flashed. Systems that had been sleeping for generations hummed back to life. The humans had always known this day would come. In a command chamber buried under black mountains. A single screen lit up with a message. Galactic Council requests human aid. The generals and leaders of Earth stood in silence. Some smiled grimly. Others shook their heads. None looked surprised. Admiral Reyes, an old man with eyes sharp as blades, finally spoke. "They swore they'd never call us again. Now they beg." Around him, commanders shifted uncomfortably. Humanity had not forgotten the past. The galaxy had mocked them, feared them, exiled them from wars, unless desperate times demanded otherwise. And yet, when survival was at stake, only one species was always called. "The question," Reyes said slowly, "is not if we go, but how we go." His words echoed as new images filled the screens. Reports from hidden probes showed burning worlds, fleets torn apart, and colonies screaming for help. The galaxy was on its knees. General Solari slammed her fist on the table. We cannot ignore this. If the galaxy falls, Earth falls too. We must strike back not for them, but for us. Reyes's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. Then let the galaxy remember who we are. Far above Earth, the void itself trembled. Massive doors opened on the far side of the moon. They were not simple hangars. They were vaults built in silence, hidden from the galaxy's eyes for centuries. Behind them rested ships that no council had ever been allowed to see. Black hulls, sharp as knives, slid into space. Their engines burned blue, but no sound carried in the void. They moved like predators, patient and deadly. At the edge of the solar system, another shadow stirred, a shape so vast it blotted out stars. The humans called it the Erebus, their silent guardian. Not a ship, but a fortress, built when the galaxy swore humanity would never again be trusted. It had waited, hidden in the Oort cloud, patient as death. Now it was awake. On the Galactic Council's homeworld, the leaders stared at their long-range sensors in disbelief. They are moving, Counselor Myra whispered. The humans have launched. Fleet after fleet of black warships poured into space, each larger and more advanced than any vessel the Council had ever seen. Some looked old, relics reforged from forgotten wars. Others were new, their designs terrifying in their simplicity. Every ship carried one message. Humanity was not coming to negotiate. Humanity was coming to fight. They didn't send words. Elder Vaynor said softly. They sent steel. Or fire, someone muttered. Or death. But Captain Dren, the young officer who had volunteered to deliver the signal, did not look away from the screens. His scar caught the glow of the light. No, look closely. They don't march like savages. They move with purpose. They're not here to burn everything. They're here to end what we could not. The council chamber fell silent. They all felt it, the shift in the air, the weight of something unstoppable. The galaxy had summoned Deathworlders, and the Deathworlders had answered. On the bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Reyes stood at the viewport, watching the stars slide past. His voice carried across the command deck. Set course for the Council's front lines. We'll show them what it means to ask humans for help. The crew did not cheer. They did not laugh. They only nodded, grim and steady. Every man and woman on board knew what was coming. In the silence of space, humanity moved as one. When Deathworlders fight, the galaxy had seen wars before. It had seen fleets clash, empires fall, and civilizations burn. But no one had ever seen humans fight with their full strength. Not until now. The first human fleets emerged from the black void like shadows with burning eyes. Alien scouts who saw them described the ships as monsters vast, dark, and bristling with weapons. The reports spread fast. The Deathworlders are here. At the front lines, the galaxy's forces were in chaos. The invaders, monstrous machines with glowing cores, had torn through every defense. Entire armadas lay in ruins. Colonies burned. Refugees screamed across the stars for rescue. Then the humans arrived. The enemy's flagship, a towering fortress of steel and energy, loomed above a dying planet. Alien fleets tried to resist, but their weapons bounced harmlessly off its armor. The flagship's cannons charged, ready to obliterate another world. But before it could fire, a shadow passed in front of it. The Erebus, the massive human fortress, blocked the enemy's light. Its black hull gleamed, covered with strange old scars marks from battles no one remembered. To the enemy, it looked like a nightmare given shape. Admiral Reyes stood tall on the bridge. His voice was calm. Lock weapons. The order spread through the Erebus and the surrounding fleets. Hundreds of human warships turned as one. Their cannons glowed. Missiles armed. Railguns charged with a hum that shook the void. Fire. The stars lit up. The first volley ripped across space. Railgun slugs flew faster than sound could carry, tearing through enemy armor like paper. Missiles detonated, creating fireballs that burned even in the void. Plasma lances carved holes through machines, thought indestructible. Alien commanders, watching the battle, froze in disbelief. The humans were not simply fighting, they were destroying, and it wasn't just their weapons. It was how they fought. The enemy adapted fast, changing formations, but the humans adapted faster. They didn't fight like the galaxy's armies, slow, organized, predictable. They fought like predators, each ship moving as if alive. One alien captain shouted, "They don't follow formations. They don't retreat. They hunt." On the ground, it was worse. Enemy drones swarmed across shattered cities, slaughtering survivors. Then drop pods fell from the sky, slamming into the earth. Their doors blew open, and humans stepped out, armored. Soldiers with weapons humming in their hands. Eyes sharp, movements calm. They didn't hesitate. They advanced through fire and ruin, cutting down enemy machines with brutal efficiency. A council soldier hiding in the rubble watched in awe. They walked through the flames like it's nothing. He whispered. The human nearest to him turned, lifted the soldier to his feet, and simply said, "Stand up. Fight with us." The enemy learned fear. For the first time, their machines faltered. They had faced countless civilizations before. But humans were different. They didn't break under pressure. They didn't stop when injured. They pushed forward, again and again. Like a storm that never tired. Alien commanders tried to regroup. "We must overwhelm them," one cried. But the humans didn't wait. They charged straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The Erebus unleashed its main cannon. A single shot carved through the enemy flagship, splitting it open like a cracked shell. Flames poured out. The galaxy's fleets watched in stunned silence as the invincible fortress died in minutes. Across the warfront, a new whisper spread. The humans are winning. For soldiers who had been ready to surrender, hope returned. Fleets rallied, colonies cheered. The galaxy saw something it had forgotten. What Deathworlders could do when unleashed. But the humans didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. On every battlefield, they fought in silence, grim and steady. Their eyes said everything. This wasn't glory. This was survival. Admiral Reyes watched the burning wreckage of the enemy flagship drift across the stars. His voice was low, but everyone on the bridge heard him. This is only the beginning. The last rule of war, the battlefield, was quiet. Burning wrecks floated in space, and shattered drones lay scattered across ruined cities. The galaxy's armies, once broken, now stood behind the humans. They had seen the impossible. The Deathworlders had turned defeat into victory, but the humans did not relax. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Erebus, staring into the void beyond the wreckage. His officers shifted uneasily. They knew what he was waiting for. And then the void answered. The stars seemed to vanish. A shadow, larger than anything seen before, slid out from the darkness. It was not one ship. It was thousands. A final wave. The true heart of the enemy. Gasps spread through the galaxy's fleets. That's their real force, someone whispered. We've only been fighting scouts. The enemy fleet stretched across the horizon, endless and merciless. Machines, forged from living metal. Weapons that glowed like captured suns. It was more than any civilization could hope to fight, except humanity. Reese's voice was calm. "Transmit to all fleets." A comms officer hesitated. "Sir, what message?" Reese's eyes hardened. The 2 rules of war. The transmission echoed across the stars. Every ship, every soldier, every survivor heard it. Rule 1. Humanity does not start wars. Rule 2. Humanity always ends them. The word spread like fire. Soldiers who had given up felt strength return to their limbs. Captains who thought they would die straightened in their chairs. The galaxy remembered why Deathworlders were feared God, and the humans proved it. The Erebus moved first, its engines flaring like a burning star. The human fleets followed, plunging into the heart of the enemy armada without hesitation. The enemy's weapons unleashed storms of fire. Entire fleets should have been erased in seconds. But the humans pressed forward, their ships weaving through chaos with impossible precision. They fought not to survive, but to finish. Every battle-scarred human carried that same fire. Soldiers on the ground charged enemy fortresses, blasting apart walls with explosives and sheer rage. Pilots dove into impossible dogfights, refusing to retreat even when outnumbered. For every human that fell, 10 enemies died. The galaxy's soldiers joined them, inspired beyond fear. A Zolari captain shouted across the comms, "We fight beside them." A council admiral, long known for cowardice, barked orders with renewed fury. Even civilians picked up weapons, following humans into the flames. And slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. The enemy began to break. Their machines, once unshakable, faltered under the relentless storm. Their great armada, thought invincible, scattered as human warships tore through their core. On the bridge of the Erebus, alarms blared. The main cannon charged again, gathering power for one last strike. Target their command nexus, Reyes ordered. The crew obeyed. The cannon fired. A beam of pure destruction carved through the void, piercing the enemy's central fortress. The entire nexus erupted in a chain of explosions that lit the stars brighter than any sun. The enemy armada shuddered and died. Silence fell. Across the galaxy, screens showed the same image, the human fleet standing tall in the aftermath, their ships scarred but unbroken. The Erebus, a black shadow with fire burning along its hull, drifted at the center. Cheers erupted from every colony, every ship, every survivor. The galaxy had been saved, not by councils, not by empires, not by humans. When the celebrations began, humanity stayed quiet. Reyes looked out at the wreckage, his voice low. "This wasn't victory," he said. "This was a warning." He turned to his officers. "Remember this. We do not start wars. But if anyone dares bring war to us," his gaze hardened, his voice cutting through the silence, "we will always end it.